Good afternoon, welcome back to another video. So this afternoon we've come out to Loe Bar near Helston. See that? What a gorgeous expanse of beach that is. I know what you're thinking, why is that beach so empty? Well, the reason this beach is so empty is because you can't swim here. It's dangerous. The beach here drops off quite quickly into deep water, and there's some really nasty undercurrents. So if you visit this beautiful bit of beach, there's no swimming, I'm afraid. There's no water activities. But the purpose of my visit here today is to do some long exposure photography, some long exposure seascapes, and to hopefully share with you some tips that will help you to improve your seascape photos. So tip number one, and it's quite a straightforward, nice and easy one, is arrive at your destination nice and early. Get there good time, usually an hour or more beforehand, to give yourself the opportunity to have a good look around and decide how you're going to compose your images, where you're going to compose your images, and exactly how you want to shoot each scene. So for example, tonight's sunset is about 6 o'clock and I'm already here on the beach at 5 to 5, so it gives me a chance to have a little wander up and down and see if there's anything that really takes my attention. So tip number two is to vary your shutter speed. I'm shooting these rocks just here behind me. There's the camera set up looking at them. And I'm shooting those at the moment at about half a second of exposure. I shall pop those up on the screen shortly, you can have a look at them. But have fun with your shutter speed, try different things. This is a fairly short exposure. Sometimes I do some very long exposures, up to a minute, maybe 2-3 minutes. You might remember I did a 3-minute exposure out at Protactic recently. But it depends as well, again, what look you want for the image. Now, I'm trying to capture the motion and the texture of the waves as they're breaking over these rocks, hence the shorter shutter speed. And like I said, I'll pop those images up on the screen in a moment. You can see what I mean about that texture as the wave comes over the rocks. In fact, I would advise when shooting long exposures to wait until the water is about to drag backwards off of the rock just to get that motion. Also, one of the other things I like to do is to put the water in the lower part of the image. So the sky is in one part, the water is in the lower part where your attention should be. And maybe as well, angle the camera down slightly so that you get a little bit more foreground rather than too much sky. But again, it's up to you, it's subjective. Give it a try, see what you think. So tip number three, and it leads on nicely from playing with your shutter speed, is filters. Filters will help you to control the shutter speed. They help to control the amount of light that's coming in through the lens. So for example, here today, I'm using the NiSi polarizer, the landscape circular polarizer, which lives on the lens. I've also got the NiSi 4-stop soft graduated filter in there to take the light off the sky. And then I'm using the NiSi 6-stop neutral density filter to help me control that exposure time. I think my ISO is currently about 400. And I'm using, again, as you can see it there, I've got a nice rock there in the foreground that I'm going to take some shots off in a moment. And once I've taken those shots, I'll pop them up on the screen. But if you haven't already invested in filters, I suggest you look into them, particularly if you're doing seascape photography, long exposure photography. I find them a real asset and I wouldn't be without them. So tip number four, get close to the water, or maybe sometimes even in it. Now, I don't advise you do that here at Loe Bar, and certainly I'm not intending on going in the water here. But depending on the conditions, when you've got a gentle swell coming in, then you can get down right on the shoreline, get ankle deep in the water, get nice and close to the water, and that way you can use the water itself as a foreground. If you don't have any rocks, I mean, you've seen that I'm here shooting some of the rocks that are on the beach. If you don't actually have any rocks, if there isn't anything to use as a foreground, you can just use the motion of the water as itself as a foreground. And by getting nice and close to that and shooting with a nice wide angle, you can get a lot of detail, a lot of texture, and your images can come out looking really, really good. I've got a couple of shots I'm going to pop on the screen in a minute to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. But as you can see, that water's coming in behind me. It's not actually coming in around my feet, but it's not far off, so I'm going to move now before I get swamped. one of the things I really love about shooting seascapes and particularly long exposures is that everything changes from one moment to the next. No two shots are ever going to be the same because the movement of the water is always different, and it creates different patterns, different looks, and it's absolutely one of my most favourite reasons for shooting seascapes is what it can capture. So tip number 5, obviously because we're shooting quite close to the water at times, is bring a cloth. You're going to want to bring a cloth, something to wipe the end of the lens, keep the end of the lens free of water spots. The last thing you want when you get home is to find that your beautiful photograph, your beautifully composed image, your wonderful long exposure has actually got water droplets all over it, and you've either got to spend quite a considerable amount of time in Photoshop removing those spots, or you've just got to bin the image off completely. So my advice there would be bring a cloth, bring something with you that you can actually use to wipe that lens clean and make sure that you're getting the cleanest possible images. So as a bonus tip, call it tip number 6 if you want, it's making sure your gear is clean after you've been down on the coast. So obviously salt, corrosive, salt water gets on your camera, on your lens, on your tripod. The last thing you want is your gear ruined. So when you get home, take a damp cloth, just give everything a quick wipe over. Just takes a couple of minutes, but it will prolong the life of the gear that you're carrying. And let's face it, it's expensive. You don't want to ruin it. You don't want it destroyed by salt corrosion. So just take those extra few moments when you get home and make sure everything's clean. So that's the end of another video, folks. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got something out of it. I've certainly enjoyed being here at Loe Bar. Look at this. Look, if I just pan around, you can see empty beach. Got the place to myself. The other way, out towards Porthleven. Nothing there either, look. It's a beautiful colour in that sky, but just not enough cloud to hold it. But anyway, as I was saying, thank you for joining me today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've got something out of it. Please do let me know in the comments. And please do feel free to join my Facebook group, Cornwall on Camera, and share your images there. Until the next time, thank you very much.